Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to a deafening silence. No hum from the refrigerator, no notifications on your phone, just dead silence. The grid hasn't just flickered, it has died. And with it, the thin veneer of civilization has vanished. You rush to your pantry. What do you see? 50 pounds of rice, a mountain of dried beans, thousands of rounds of ammo. If that is your stockpile, I have some bad news for you. You are preparing for a Hollywood movie, not reality. Here is the brutal truth that most beginner preppers refuse to accept. Starvation isn't what kills you first. Your body is a miraculous machine. It can survive weeks, even months, with empty calories. What truly breaks a survivor isn't an empty stomach. It is an empty mind. It is called appetite fatigue. It is the psychological collapse that happens when you are forced to eat the same grey, flavourless slop day after day until your will to live simply drains out of you. That is when you die. Not physically, but mentally. And once your mind quits, your body follows. I have built a different kind of stockpile, a shadow stockpile. I hide these items from my neighbors not because they are illegal, but because they are force multipliers for morale and sanity. If people knew the true power of these 11 items, they wouldn't just knock, they would tear my door off its hinges. These aren't just supplies, they are psychological anchors, 11 secret weapons. None of them are standard. All of them are game changers. And the item at number 1. It might just become the most valuable currency in the new world. Let's start with something that sounds ridiculous. Item number 11, the pressure bomb, otherwise known as popcorn kernels. I can see you rolling your eyes. Popcorn? In an apocalypse? Keep laughing while I explain the physics and psychology that make this the ultimate survival food. First, let's talk about the physics. Popcorn has the highest volume to storage ratio of any food on Earth, period. A single cup of dense, rock-hard kernels explodes into 8 cups of hot, fluffy, filling food. A single 5-gallon bucket tucked away in your basement can feed a family for months. Try doing that with beans. But here is the science that matters. Each kernel is a biological pressure vessel. Inside that hard shell is a tiny droplet of water surrounded by dense starch, locked at precisely 13 to 14% moisture. When you heat it over a fire, that water turns to steam. The pressure builds and builds until the hull can no longer contain it, and boom! The starch gelatinizes and expands 40 to 50 times its original size. Why does this matter when the world is ending? It is pure psychology. When you are starving, your lizard brain, that ancient part of you screaming for survival, is in a constant state of panic. It sees a tiny ration of rice and thinks scarcity. But when it sees a massive, overflowing bowl of hot popcorn, it registers abundance. It tricks your stomach into feeling full and your brain into feeling safe. And there is a backup plan. If things get truly desperate and your flour runs out, you can grind those unpopped kernels into cornmeal. Suddenly, you have the base for cornbread, porridge, or johnny cakes. It is versatility disguised as a snack. For your stockpile protocol, store at least 10 pounds per person in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. But be warned, the moisture content is critical. Do not dry it out too much, or it won't pop. Keep it sealed, keep it cool, and it will outlast you. While your neighbors are weeping over their cold beans, you will be sitting by a fire, listening to the comforting sound of popping corn, eating a hot, crunchy reminder of the old world. That is morale. That is survival. But comfort food won't save you if your body is shutting down from the inside out. In a grid-down world, there is a killer faster than starvation, faster than bullets. It is silent, it is unglamorous, and it is deadly. Dehydration. And that brings us to item number 10, the hospital in a packet. You know it as Jell-O powder. Yes, that cheap, sugary dessert from your grandmother's church potlucks is actually a top-tier medical supply. Before you click away, listen to the reality of collapse. What kills people when society falls? It isn't zombies, it is dysentery, it is cholera, it is norovirus. It is the endless gastrointestinal nightmare that comes from drinking bad water and eating questionable food. When you are vomiting or have diarrhea, you aren't just losing water, you are hemorrhaging electrolytes, sodium, potassium, the electrical signals that keep your heart beating. If you just drink plain water in that state, you are actually making it worse. You are diluting the few electrolytes you have left. This condition is called hyponatremia, and it can kill you just as dead as thirst. You need an oral rehydration solution. Hospitals charge a fortune for IV bags of this stuff, but if you look at the ingredients of Jell-O powder, what do you see? Sugar and gelatin. Here is the secret. When you mix that powder with water and add a pinch of salt, you have created a homemade electrolyte solution that rivals medical-grade products. The sugar and sodium work together through a biological process called co-transport, forcing your intestines to absorb water even when they want to reject everything. But the magic ingredient is the gelatin. Gelatin is derived from collagen. When you digest it, it breaks down into amino acids, specifically one called glycine. Glycine is like a construction crew for your gut. It helps repair the lining of your intestines, soothing the inflammation and healing the damage caused by illness. It is medicine for your gut, disguised as a dessert, costing pennies a serving. And do not underestimate the power of flavor. Imagine your child is sick, scared, and fading away. The world outside is dark and dangerous. Giving them a cup of warm, strawberry-flavored liquid isn't just hydration, it is hope. It tastes like birthday parties. It tastes like safety. It gives them a psychological anchor to hold on to while their body fights. For your stockpile protocol, aim for 15 boxes minimum. Vacuum seal the powder because humidity will turn it into a brick. Kept dry, it has a shelf life of 15 years or more. While others are dying because they don't understand basic chemistry, you will be saving lives with a strawberry dessert. Speaking of saving lives, there is an item you throw away every single day that could prevent your skeleton from dissolving. Item number 9. The garbage treasure, also known as eggshells. Every morning across millions of kitchens, people crack eggs and toss the shells into the trash without a second thought. They are throwing away medicine. They are discarding something that pharmacies charge real money for. Eggshells are 95% calcium carbonate. This is the exact same compound found in pharmacy supplements. Not similar, chemically identical. Molecule for molecule, it is the same stuff. Post-collapse, where is your calcium coming from? There will be no milk delivery truck, no cheese aisle, no supplement section at the drugstore. Every source you currently rely on vanishes overnight. But your body doesn't care about the apocalypse. It needs calcium every single day without exception. Calcium keeps muscles contracting. It keeps nerves firing. It keeps blood clotting when you cut yourself. And most importantly, it keeps your heart beating in rhythm. Here is the terrifying part. Without dietary calcium, your body starts mining its only reserve, your bones and teeth. Your skeleton literally dissolves itself to keep your heart functioning. Short term, this works. Long term, you become brittle. Bones fracture from minor impacts. Teeth crack and crumble. And let me tell you about dental problems in a grid-down world. There are no dentists, no anesthesia, no sterile environment. A simple toothache becomes an abscess becomes sepsis, and sepsis becomes a painful, preventable death. One single eggshell contains your entire daily calcium requirement. The process is simple. Save your shells, rinse them, and let them accumulate. Boil them for 10 minutes to kill salmonella. Bake them at 200 degrees until they are brittle. Then, grind them into a fine powder and store it in a jar. It never expires because calcium carbonate is essentially rock. Half a teaspoon mixed with food, and your stomach acid converts it to absorbable calcium chloride. It is a lifetime supply of supplements made from literal garbage. But calcium is just one piece of the puzzle. The human body demands extensive requirements, and there is one macronutrient that is almost impossible to find after a collapse. It is the one thing that makes the difference between surviving and thriving. Fat. And fat has a serious problem. Item number 8. Liquid gold that won't betray you. Ever heard of rabbit starvation? It sounds like a joke, but it isn't. Early American explorers actually died from it. They had plenty of meat they were eating every day, but they died anyway. The problem? They ate only lean meat, animals like rabbits that carry almost no body fat. Your body cannot survive on protein alone. This isn't an opinion, it is biochemistry. Without adequate fat, protein metabolism overwhelms your liver and kidneys. It starts with nausea, then diarrhea, and finally organ failure. You can eat 3 meals daily and still starve to death. Fat is essential. It provides the fatty acids your body can't manufacture. It enables the absorption of vitamins A, D, E, and K. It provides sustained energy without blood sugar spikes. And it makes food actually taste like food. But here is the problem with fat in survival contexts. Most fats betray you. Butter goes rancid within days without refrigeration. Vegetable oils oxidize into toxic sludge. Animal fats support bacterial growth without proper rendering. Rancid fats don't just taste bad. They are full of free radicals, unstable molecules that damage your cells and promote inflammation. In a survival situation without medical care, consuming poison with every meal is catastrophic. The solution is ghee, clarified butter rendered over low heat until the water evaporates and the milk solids separate. What remains is pure butterfat. The parts of butter that spoil are the water and milk solids. Remove them and you remove the problem. Ghee is shelf-stable at room temperature for years if unopened, and months after opening without refrigeration. It has a smoke point of 480 degrees, higher than almost any cooking fat. You can fry, sauté, or deep fry without it breaking down into toxic compounds, and the calorie density is incredible, 9 calories per gram. Pure, concentrated energy. 1 spoonful transforms survival mush into something that tastes like civilization. Richness, flavor, satisfaction. It is a reminder of what eating used to feel like. For your stockpile protocol, aim for 10 to 12 jars per person annually. Keep it in cool, dark storage. When everyone else slowly dies of fat deficiency, wondering why they feel worse despite having protein, you will be thriving on liquid gold. Fat is handled, calories are handled, but there is a gap in every prepper's pantry that kills slowly and horribly, and most don't even know it exists. Item number 7. The bunker farm. Those canned vegetables stacked floor to ceiling in your basement? That is dead food, literally. Canning requires extreme heat to kill bacteria. That is what makes it shelf-stable for years. But it also destroys most vitamins, particularly vitamin C. Your canned peas have essentially zero. Your green beans have negligible amounts. That corn you are so proud of stockpiling, it is nutritionally hollow compared to fresh produce. Without vitamin C, you get scurvy. Scurvy sounds like a historical footnote, something that happened to pirates. A solved problem. It is not. Scurvy is what happens to any human going long enough without fresh nutrients. It takes 4 to 6 weeks of complete vitamin C deprivation before symptoms begin. First, your gums swell and bleed. Then your teeth loosen as the collagen holding them in place breaks down. Your skin develops spots as capillaries rupture. Old wounds that healed years ago will reopen as the scar tissue dissolves. Your joints will ache constantly. Advanced stages bring internal bleeding, organ failure, and death. In a grid-down scenario, scurvy will kill more people than violence. So how do you grow fresh vegetables without soil, sunlight, or electricity? You use sprouting seeds. Alfalfa, broccoli, radish, mung beans. In their dry form, the nutrients are locked and dormant. But add water, and enzymes activate. The seed wakes up. Vitamin C content doesn't just increase, it explodes by a factor of 20 to 30. A small handful of sprouts contains more vitamin C than a glass of orange juice. These are living, fresh, crunchy vegetables created from almost nothing. You don't need soil, you don't need sunlight, you don't need fertilizer, only seeds, water, and a container with drainage. You can grow sprouts in a dark bunker, you can grow them in a closet. You can grow them during a nuclear winter when nothing else survives outside. The process is simple. Soak the seeds overnight, drain them, rinse them twice daily. 3 to 5 days later, you have fresh vegetables ready to eat. For your stockpile protocol, get 2 to 3 kilograms of mixed sprouting seeds. That is enough for fresh greens for an entire year. Store them cool and dry in airtight containers. They are tiny and lightweight, but they are the difference between getting scurvy and staying healthy. But nutrition only matters if your brain functions well enough to make good decisions. In a high-stakes world, there is a legal drug that means the difference between sharp thinking and fatal mistakes. Item number 6. The 20-year stimulant, or as you know it, coffee. Coffee isn't a luxury, it is a performance-enhancing drug that society has normalized because it happens to taste good. Caffeine improves alertness, reaction time, cognitive function, and memory recall. It physically increases your endurance by reducing your perceived exertion. It makes hard tasks feel easier and long tasks feel shorter. In survival situations where every decision matters and fatigue is your constant enemy, being sharper and faster isn't optional. It is a measurable tactical advantage. It is what keeps you alive when others are making exhaustion-induced errors that get them killed. But here is the problem. Roasted coffee goes stale fast. Those beans in your pantry, they are dying right now. The oils on roasted beans break down, oxidize, and turn rancid within 6 months. Within a year, they are noticeably degraded. In a long-term collapse, your coffee supply will fail first. Unless you know the trick, the secret is green coffee beans. When coffee is harvested, it isn't brown. It is green. It is hard as a rock and smells like grass. In this raw state, the precious oils inside are protected within the cell walls. Nothing oxidizes, nothing degrades, nothing goes stale. Properly stored in airtight containers, green coffee beans last 20 years, maybe longer. When you need that cognitive edge, and you will, you roast them fresh on demand. Put the green beans in a dry pan over medium heat and stir constantly. Within 10 minutes, they will crack and pop like tiny fireworks, transforming from green to brown right before your eyes. You pull them off the heat when they reach your preferred color. It is the freshest coffee on the planet. And here is a bonus most people don't consider: the smell. Roasting coffee fills your space with a warm, rich aroma. It is the smell of normal life, of lazy Sunday mornings, of civilization. In a world that smells like smoke, sweat, and fear, that coffee aroma is a psychological reset button for your entire group. For your stockpile protocol, aim for 20 pounds minimum. Store them in airtight containers in a cool, dark place. In a post-collapse barter economy, fresh roasted coffee will command higher prices than silver. Everyone wants it, nobody else has it. But while coffee handles your brain, the next item handles everything else. And I mean everything. Item number 5. The legal white powder, baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, that boring white box absorbing odors in the back of your refrigerator. If you only see this as a baking ingredient, you are catastrophically underestimating one of the most versatile chemicals available to humanity. Baking soda is the Swiss Army knife of the chemical world. First, it is a pH neutralizer. Half a teaspoon in water neutralizes stomach acid instantly. Heartburn, acid reflux, digestive distress, all handled for pennies. Second, it is a dentist replacement. It is mildly abrasive, perfect for cleaning teeth, and alkaline enough to neutralize cavity-causing acids. It isn't pleasant, but it is functional. In a world without dentists, functionality matters more than flavor. Third, it is a master cleaning agent. Blood, grease, grime, a baking soda paste cuts through everything, keeping your gear functional and your living spaces sanitary. Fourth, fire suppression. Got a grease fire in your makeshift kitchen? Never throw water, that makes it worse. Throw baking soda. Heat decomposes it into carbon dioxide, smothering the flames instantly. Fifth, soap production. Mix it with fats, and you have a crude but effective soap. Hygiene prevents disease, and disease kills more survivors than combat ever will. And finally, it is a deodorizer. It treats body odor, keeps shelters livable, and neutralizes the smells of waste disposal. For your stockpile protocol, get 30 pounds in airtight buckets. Remove it from the cardboard immediately because it absorbs moisture and odors. Sealed in buckets, it preserves its chemical activity indefinitely. You will reach for this powder 100 times for 100 different reasons. Now, everything so far assumes you are thinking clearly. But what happens when your brain crashes at the worst possible moment? Item number 4, the pocket-sized brain reboot. This one doesn't go in the pantry. It goes on your body. In your pocket, your vest, somewhere you can reach in 3 seconds without thinking. Hard candy. Your brain is a hungry organ. It consumes 20% of your daily calories, and it runs exclusively on glucose. Unlike muscles that can burn fat for fuel, your brain demands a constant stream of sugar. When your blood sugar drops too low, your brain malfunctions. This is hypoglycemia, and it happens faster than most people realize. Skip a couple of meals, perform hard physical labor, experience sustained high stress. Combine any 2 of those factors, and your blood sugar can crash within hours. The symptoms are dangerous: shaking hands, blurred vision, mental confusion, poor judgment, physical weakness, and loss of coordination. Severe cases bring unconsciousness. In survival situations, any single one of those symptoms can kill you. You can't shoot accurately with shaking hands. You can't navigate with blurred vision. You can't make life or death decisions with a foggy brain. Hard candy is pure sucrose. It dissolves in your mouth and absorbs directly through the mucous membranes into your bloodstream, bypassing digestion entirely. There is no waiting for stomach processing. Within 2 to 3 minutes, your blood sugar stabilizes. Your hands stop shaking, your vision clears, your thoughts become coherent, you function again. This is why paramedics carry glucose tablets. It is the same principle, just fancier packaging. But there is a secondary use: psychological first aid. Trauma and shock trap people in a fight or flight state, unable to process information or make rational decisions. They become disconnected from the present. Giving them something sweet, something that tastes like comfort and childhood safety, acts as a psychological anchor. It is a physical action they can take, a taste that activates positive memories, a signal to their brain that maybe, just maybe, the immediate danger has passed. For your stockpile protocol, stock 10 pounds. Keep the wrappers intact. Store them cool and dry to prevent them from melting into a useless sticky mass. And carry some on your body always, no exceptions. Your brain is your most important survival tool. Never let it run on empty. Item number 3, the free calories nobody wants, otherwise known as acorns. You walk past them every autumn. They are in parks, on sidewalks, in suburban yards, scattered across trails and tumbling down hillsides. Most people look at acorns and see squirrel food. They see gutter debris. They see nuisance objects crunching underfoot. Those people will starve while surrounded by abundance. Acorns are among the most plentiful caloric resources in temperate climates worldwide. A single mature oak tree produces thousands of nuts annually. Some estimates put productive trees at tens of thousands. Urban and suburban environments have oaks everywhere. Free food literally carpets the ground each fall, and nutritionally, they are a powerhouse. Rich in carbohydrates and healthy fats, with decent protein, they are nutritionally similar to wheat or oats. Indigenous peoples across continents relied on acorns as a dietary staple for millennia. So why doesn't everyone eat them? The answer is tannins. Tannic acid makes raw acorns incredibly bitter, so bitter your mouth will rebel against swallowing them. More importantly, in significant quantities, tannins damage your kidneys. You cannot eat them raw like trail mix. But here is the crucial thing most people miss. Tannins are water-soluble. If you soak crushed acorns in water, the tannins leach out into the liquid. Change the water periodically as it turns brown. Eventually, the water stays clear, the bitterness disappears, and what remains is sweet, nutty, and completely safe to eat. The process is simple. Collect acorns in the fall after they drop. Dry them thoroughly. Remove the shells and caps. Crush or grind the nut meat. Soak it in water for hours or days, changing the water when it browns. When the water stays clear, you are done. What you have is acorn meal. Dry it further and grind it into flour. Cook it into porridge, add it to soups, or use it to thicken stews. It is versatile, nutritious, and free. This is nature's backup plan. When your stockpiled wheat runs out, when your rice is gone, when grocery stores are looted to bare shelves, oak trees will still stand. They will still produce. They will still drop free food on the ground, waiting for the person who knows the secret. Learn to identify oak trees now. Practice the leaching process before you need it. Develop the skill while failure has no consequences. The person feeding themselves from the forest survives when everyone else's supplies run out. Speaking of things you will need in serious quantities, there is a mineral so critical that running out means death within weeks. Item number 2. The mineral you can't live without. Those tiny shaker bottles of table salt in your kitchen. Completely inadequate, almost useless for serious survival. A few ounces in a cardboard cylinder is designed for lightly seasoning a single meal. That is not what you need. You need pounds. Industrial quantities. First, and most obviously, food preservation. Hunt a deer in a world without refrigeration, and you have an immediate problem. That meat rots within days. All those calories, that protein, that precious fat, spoiled and wasted, feeding bacteria instead of your family. Unless you preserve it. Salt draws moisture from tissue through osmosis, creating an environment where bacteria cannot survive. This isn't modern technology. Humans kept meat edible this way for thousands of years before electricity. But curing a whole deer requires pounds of salt, not tablespoons. If your entire salt supply is a few tiny shakers, you preserve a tiny fraction. The rest rots while you watch. Second, electrolytes. Sodium chloride is the primary electrolyte for nerve function. Your nerves communicate through electrical signals that require sodium ions to move across cell membranes. Without adequate sodium, your nervous system misfires. The symptoms progress from annoying to fatal: muscle cramps, mental confusion, generalized weakness, and eventually cardiac arrhythmia. Your heart is a muscle controlled by electrical signals. It needs sodium to keep its rhythm. In a post-grid world, you will be performing hard physical labor in hot conditions. You will lose significant amounts of sodium through sweat. Without replacement, you die. Not eventually, relatively quickly. The solution? Feed stores. Look for 50-pound salt blocks meant for horses and cattle. It is pure sodium chloride. It is incredibly cheap. You can chip off exactly what you need. Yes, they are marketed for animals. No, there is no chemical difference. Salt is salt. Sodium chloride is sodium chloride. The only distinction is the packaging and the markup. For your stockpile protocol, stock at least 2 blocks. That is 100 pounds total, 100. Wrap them in heavy plastic to prevent moisture absorption. Because salt is hygroscopic, it absorbs water from the air. Exposed blocks will slowly dissolve in humidity. Kept dry, salt outlasts civilization itself. When others watch their meat spoil because they never considered preservation, you will be eating cured venison all winter long. But even with all this, calories, preservation, nutrients, there is one final item that transforms mere survival into something resembling life, and it is alive. Item number 1. The living currency, my number 1 secret, the single most important thing I stockpile. Yeast, flour, water and salt make a hard cracker, dense, joyless, technically edible. Add yeast and you have bread, soft bread, rising bread. Bread smelling like heaven coming out of a makeshift oven. Bread representing normalcy, comfort and civilization. Bread that makes you feel human when everything around you is trying to reduce you to an animal. But the biological potential of Saccharomyces cerevisiae extends far beyond baking. With oxygen, yeast consumes sugar and multiplies, producing carbon dioxide. This is leavening, the gas that creates texture in dough. But without oxygen, yeast switches metabolic pathways. It still consumes sugar, but instead of multiplying, it produces ethanol. This is fermentation, the process that gives us wine, beer, and spirits. In a post-collapse world, alcohol isn't just recreational. Alcohol is a disinfectant. You can sterilize wounds, clean medical instruments, and sanitize containers and food prep surfaces. Alcohol is a solvent. You can extract medicinal compounds from plants into tinctures. Herbal medicine becomes truly possible when you can concentrate active ingredients. Alcohol is fuel. In high concentrations, it burns cleanly. Lamps, fire starting, emergency heating. Alcohol is a painkiller. When anesthesia doesn't exist, when prescription drugs are a memory, a stiff drink is significantly better than nothing for someone facing a rough surgery. And alcohol is a universal trade good. People always want to forget their troubles, especially in desperate times. A reliable alcohol source makes you valuable to everyone. Control the yeast, and you are simultaneously the village baker, the pharmacist, and the distiller. You become essential, irreplaceable. Here is the catch that makes this tricky. Yeast is alive. Living things die. Heat above 120 degrees damages cells. Above 140, they are completely dead. You cannot leave yeast on a shelf in a hot garage expecting it to work later. Even in ideal cool conditions, viability slowly declines. Individual cells exhaust their internal energy reserves and die one by one. Typical active dry yeast has a shelf life of about 2 years at room temperature. My protocol, vacuum-sealed bricks stored in a deep freezer where the cold pauses the biological clock. Frozen storage keeps yeast viable for many years, possibly indefinitely. When the grid goes down, those bricks move immediately to the coolest basement location you have. Use them strategically and sparingly. Save portions to create sourdough starter cultures, propagating more yeast indefinitely, because here is the beautiful secret. Yeast self-replicates. Given sugar, water, and time, it makes more of itself. A single packet, managed correctly, becomes an infinite supply. The key is never using it all, always maintaining a living culture. Guard your yeast like treasure. Protect it from heat, contamination, and people who don't understand its value. In the new world, yeast might literally become the currency that matters most. Reality check. Pause. 11 items, 11 force multipliers, 11 ways to shift the odds in your favor. But nothing guarantees survival. Every solution is temporary. Every tool eventually fails. Every stockpile depletes. Collapse isn't a problem to solve, it is a condition to endure. Human desperation remains the ultimate wild card. Your neighbors, your community, strangers passing through, they are all experiencing the same crisis. They are scared, hungry, watching their families suffer. Some will remain decent throughout, some won't. Some will surprise you with generosity, others will surprise you with how quickly they abandon every moral principle they once claimed. You cannot predict who breaks or when. You cannot prepare for every human variable. Even with all 11 items perfectly stored in ideal quantities, you can still die from bad luck, bad timing, or bad people. What these items provide is resilience. More tools, more options, more flexibility, a higher probability of bending instead of breaking when chaos arrives. That is all preparation can ever do, shift the percentages in your favor. Survivors aren't necessarily the people with the biggest stockpiles. They are the ones who stay adaptable, keep learning, and maintain their humanity while everything else burns. Watching this video puts you ahead. You are thinking, you are preparing, and you are not assuming civilization is permanent. That mindset outweighs any stockpile. Final punch, 11 items, non-standard, all transformative. Popcorn for psychological volume, Jello for emergency rehydration, eggshells for invisible supplements, ghee for fat that won't betray you, sprouting seeds for living vitamins, green coffee for decades of focus, baking soda for everything else, hard candy for brain reboots, acorns for free calories everyone ignores, salt blocks for preservation and electrolytes. And yeast for bread, alcohol, and civilization itself. This isn't hoarding. It is understanding the chemistry of survival when the safety nets vanish. While everyone else chokes down flavorless rations, watches their teeth fall out, and slowly loses their minds from monotony, you will be eating popcorn by the fire, drinking fresh roasted coffee, and baking actual bread. That is not surviving. That is living. It is maintaining humanity when everything conspires to strip it away. One warning: visibility creates vulnerability. The moment people discover what you have, what you understand, and what you provide, you transform from a neighbor into a target. Knowledge is power. Visible knowledge is a liability. Hide your treasures, guard your secrets, share wisely, strategically, or not at all. Adapt to whatever comes. Fight for what matters. Use the chaos while others flounder or become part of the landscape. Your choice. Don't take too long making it. One question before you go. What is your guilty pleasure prep? The item with zero nutritional value but maximum mental value. The thing with absolutely no logical place in a bug-out bag but is utterly essential for keeping you sane. Drop it in the comments. Keep your powder dry.